So it turns out that it is psychologically impossible for a human being to actually experience fulfillment, satisfaction, alignment, presence, full, complete enjoyment, and awakening. It's impossible for a human being to fully, completely enjoy their life unless they are engaged in some sort of meditation practice. This is what we're going to talk about today. Now, meditation has a lot of meanings. It means a lot of things to a lot of different people. So in this video, we're going to talk about what I really mean by meditation. There's many different kinds and forms of meditation. And I understand that it sounds a little bit spiritual. When I first heard one of my personal development teachers on YouTube tell me that meditation is the #1 most powerful personal development practice that exists, I was skeptical and I was confused, because the only idea that I had of meditation when I was 16 years old was this idea of 40-year-old moms wearing yoga pants, just kind of sitting on a yoga mat, lighting scented candles and chanting Om, Om, right? That's what I thought meditation was. I didn't realize that meditation is something that is really a core, essential part of being a happy human being. And this word happiness is very misleading. I want to say being a human being that isn't constantly stuck in cycles of chasing things that don't end up actually fulfilling you and isn't involved in being constantly craving things, experiences, and also being aggressive and so forth. Okay, so meditation is the foundation, one of the keys for living a happy life. So I wanted to use a simple analogy to explain why this is the case. I want you to imagine that you're watching a movie at the movie theater, okay? And it's a very interesting movie. You can imagine like an Indiana Jones style movie where there's a person who is going through this arduous puzzle, like he's going into a maze or an ancient ruins, and he's in search of the golden treasure. Okay, so you can think of the beginning of Indiana Jones. He's dodging the traps and all of the booby traps, right? And then there's this whole movie, there's all these problems that arise, there's enemies they have to fight, obstacles to be overcome. Then eventually, towards the end of the movie, we get to the golden idol, the thing we've been searching for. The whole point of the movie was to get this golden idol. So the character is all excited to finally get the Holy Grail. And he dodged all the booby traps. He barely made it alive. Like, he's cut up. He's got scratches and cuts, and there's dirt all over his face. He lost some friends along the way. And finally, as he goes to grab the idol, his hands go through it. And he realizes that it's actually just a mirage. It's actually just made of light. And this confuses the character. He was searching for this idol the entire time, but actually when he went to go grab it, his hands passed right through it. It wasn't what he thought it was. It seemed solid. It seemed, shiny and golden, and it was like the exact thing I wanted. I could sell it. I could make millions of dollars. I could be rich. I could buy all the things I want with it. But once I grabbed it, it wasn't actually real. It was like an illusion. Now, let's go meta on this story. So when you're sitting in the movie theater, not only is the character realizing that this idol is an illusion, it's made of light, it's like a hologram, it's a mirage, but then you can go one step further and realize that the movie itself that you're watching is a mirage. It's just light that's being projected onto a screen. And sometimes your attention can get sucked into the movie to the point where you feel like you actually are the character, dodging the booby traps and losing loved ones, and there's this whole ordeal. You feel like you get sucked into it. You forget that it's a movie. That's why the movie is so fun. So this topic of illusion is something that human beings love. Illusion. We love to get immersed in a really good illusion. It's fun. It's entertaining. That's why we go to the movie theaters and watch our favorite movies, because we can lose ourselves in them. We can forget that it's not real. It's just kind of a game. It's just like light being projected on a screen. There really is, at the end of the day, no stakes. Whether this character gets the golden idol or not, it doesn't really matter, because it's just light on a screen. In fact, there is no character, and there is no idol, and there is no obstacles. It's just light. So this is what meditation helps you to realize about your actual life. We start to realize that a lot of the things that we chase and that we devote so much mental energy towards planning, strategizing, making sure that everything goes perfect so that we can get the things that we want. This could be making sure your business is profitable, making sure your diet was working, going to the gym, building muscle, building your relationship with your significant other, going out, socializing, raising your status, making sure your kids go to good schools, making sure you're living in a conducive place, and all of this. So in our culture, this is normal, and I'm not saying that this is like a bad thing. I'm just showing that most of your energy is going towards survival and basically chasing after this golden idol that's in the future. Like, I'm gonna work really hard at my job because then eventually I'll get a promotion. Then after I get that promotion, and then eventually I'll be able to make more money. And then when I make more money, then I can move to a nicer house. Then when I move to a nicer house, I can have all the things that I want. I can have a swimming pool, I can have a fast car, I can have a big flat screen TV, so I can have even more illusions, right? So you're investing a lot of your mental energy, and then that of course translates to all of your physical energy, your financial energy. Most of your life energy is devoted towards chasing illusions. Now, I'm not saying that you have to give up, your job and go become a hermit in the Himalayas. I'm not saying that. And I want you to even notice if there is an emotional reaction that you have when I say that the things you're striving after in your life won't make you happy because they're a mirage. They're like that golden idol. The second you go to grab it, it's like your hands go through it. If that kind of triggers you, or you get confused or scared about that, because you got to understand your whole life is banked on illusions, and you really banked a lot of your mental energy, your finances, your life, you got your job, your schooling, all of this has been coordinating and organizing illusions so that you can get other illusions thinking that they'll make you happy. So just notice if there's some attachment, some clinging there, like you don't want to accept it, or you think I'm crazy. You're gonna say, Adam, this is not practical, I'm gonna die. Is it an illusion if I die and I don't get food in my stomach? So I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you have to stop eating or you have to stop making money. I'm not saying that. We're gonna just explore this topic of what actually brings happiness, what actually works. So I remember when I was a kid, this story is very relatable. When I was a kid, I would look through these magazines and there was toys in them. And I remember when it was Christmas time, around November, December, I would look through these magazines and there was these toys that I wanted. I remember I'd love these like action figures that you could transform. They're called Transformers. I love these things when I was like 4 or 5 years old. This was like my favorite thing in the whole world. So what I would do before Christmas is for months, I would stare at the picture in the magazine and I would dream about all the fun things I'm going to be able to do once I finally get this Transformer. I would ask my parents for it every single day. Hey mom, can I have that Transformer for Christmas? Please, 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 please. And then the next day and the next day and the next day, my mom would say, no, don't worry about it, stop it, right? But I would just ask every day, can I please have this Transformer? So eventually, I remember like the days would be counting down and I would like, I can't wait to finally get this toy. 5 days till Christmas, 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, like, oh my mind was melting. Like I couldn't wait to finally get this toy. I would stare at it for hours in the magazine. Finally, Christmas Day would come. I would open my present, and I'm very blessed that I lived in a middle-class family in Canada, so I was very privileged. So my parents were able to afford the toy. And I would open it up and I would be so happy, like, oh my God, it's here, it's finally here. I've been waiting forever for this. A few months when you're 4 years old is like, like almost an eighth of your entire life. And so I felt like I was waiting my whole life for this toy. I would rip open the wrapping paper, open it up, look at the, the packaging and this toy, so happy. And I would play with it for a few days. I would play with it for a week, maybe 2 weeks. And then eventually the shiny object started to lose a little bit of its luster. And the next thing I knew, a month later, the toy was just kind of sitting beside all the other shiny toys that I wanted, and I forgot all about it. And then I was on to the next. So I'm sure a lot of you have had this experience, and this really goes to show you the nature of illusion that we're talking about. We think that this toy that we want, this house or this food or this thing that we want, we think it's going to bring us happiness, but eventually the trick, the magic show kind of loses its novelty, and then now we're looking for a new toy and a new toy and a new toy. This is the same with movies, right? The first time you've ever went to a movie theater, you must have been mind blown, like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then after the movie's done, you want another one and another one and another one, and so on. So what I'm saying is that most of your mental energy is going towards strategizing and planning and organizing in order to get something which isn't even going to make you happy long term. So how does this connect to meditation? So meditation, what is it? Let me stand up. Ooh. Meditation is the practice of sitting and just experiencing what your mind and your body is doing. And I know this sounds crazy, like, Adam, aren't I always experiencing what my mind and body is doing? But actually you're not. Actually, when you actually do the meditation, you realize that most of your mental energy is actually somewhere else. You're not fully present with yourself. You're actually avoiding. Guys, check out this river. Oh, I have to go in. Oh my goodness. Okay, ready? Wow. Oh, it's so fresh. Oh, that's amazing. Wake myself up a little bit. That's amazing. Yeah. So most of your mental energy is actually very attached and it's very clinged on to organizing and planning and scheming in order to get that shiny object that you're attached to. For me, a lot of times it's sex. I spend a lot of time fantasizing about sex, and it's like compulsive. It's actually crazy. Like I've had entire meditation retreats where I sit there for 10 days with no stimulation, just sitting and being with myself and realizing what my mind is doing, and there's nowhere to run. You know, there's no TV to avoid it, or there's no phone that I can use to avoid it. There's nothing I can do. There's no games, there's no work. There's just me and myself and my cushion sitting for 10 days. And you're able to finally see what all the tricks that your mind plays to avoid the bareness of experience. I would just sit there for like days, just fantasizing about sex, thinking of old pornographic videos that I watched when I was younger, and just like, you know, craving and visualizing and fantasizing about sex. And that was only one thing. Of course, then I would have all kinds of other fantasies, like making a lot of money, becoming rich, becoming a millionaire, and, you know, traveling the world, and, you know, this, that, and the other, or becoming famous, right? Thinking about becoming popular, right? I'm gonna go home after this retreat and I'm going to show off all of my meditation skills, and everyone is going to think that I'm so cool and they're going to, you know, respect me, right? So this whole thing. We have all sorts of fantasies. A friend of mine told me that he spent his whole retreat just thinking about food, just visualizing the burger that he's going to eat after he finally leaves the center. So if you don't actually do the practice of sitting and experiencing and doing your best to stay present, that's the whole practice, is you're staying present. You're actually awake, you're actually there, you're actually seeing what's happening. You'll be able to see very clearly your mind is just like an avoidance machine. There's a lot of avoiding tendencies that you have, and then this avoidance, right, what it does is it then creates desires. So the root cause of these sexual fantasies, or these fantasies for food or money or status, you know, the things you're chasing all day and all night, right? Those things that your whole life is organized around, those things, is actually rooted in this primordial avoidance. that I think Ken Wilber called it the primordial avoidance. The core fundamental nature of what it means to be an ego, to be a separate self. You have to ignore reality. You have to be partially asleep. Even during the day, when you think you're awake and you're doing all this stuff and you're busy, you're running your business, you're moving from here to there, you're going shopping, doing this and that, you think you're awake. Really what you are is you're like a person who's sitting in a movie theater watching the movie, and you're so engrossed in the movie that you forgot that it was a movie. Now you're in it. You're in the illusion. That's not being awake. That's being asleep. In the Bhagavad Gita 2,000 years ago, or maybe even longer, they wrote, what normal people call day is actually the night of ignorance to the wise. So what I'm saying is, you not meditating, right? Not paying attention to your mind and your emotions, and not being willing to face your avoidance and your discomfort and your dis-ease and your dissatisfactoriness, your unwillingness to face the truth of dukkha, which the Buddhists is very poorly translated to suffering, but really maybe a better translation would be like unsatisfactoriness, or states that are not aligned with happiness, or just ill states, right? So that you need to face that. You need to pay attention to it. So in Buddhism, they talk about the Four Noble Truths. The first truth, right, of awakening, the spiritual path, is the truth of suffering, the truth of unsatisfactoriness. You have to face it. You can't just keep avoiding it and avoiding it and avoiding it and avoiding it and avoiding it, because what that creates is all these desires. Okay? All of these desires for pizza and for Netflix and for sex and for big muscles and for this, that, and the other. Okay? Concerts, music, you know. I'm not saying these things are evil or bad. I'm just saying the way that you relate to them is very unconscious, and it's like this golden idol. You're investing so much mental energy and time and resources, and you're fighting and you're clawing through this obstacle course, this filled with booby traps, and you're going after this thing that once you get it, you realize, I didn't even really want this. This wasn't what I wanted. There's a lot of imagery in Buddhism of this idea of the mirage, where you're in the desert and it's dry and you really need some water. And then you see out in the distance, there's an oasis, right? Out there in the distance, it's just a little bit further. And then as you go to walk after it, it gets further and further. And then you realize that it's actually not even there. It's an illusion. All right, so stick with me. We're gonna close everything up, and I still haven't said the the thing. Wow. So this avoidance, it creates desires in you, and then you end up like me on meditation retreats, sitting there for days and days and days, just thinking about sex over and 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 over again. And that is the path. That's what people don't realize, is that they think meditation is about sitting and being peaceful all the time. Happy, happy all the time. Rainbows and, rivers and oases, and, there's chirping birds and everything's peaceful and there's scented candles and all this. That's not what meditation really is. Meditation is just about being with what's really there. Fully. Even the things that are really difficult to look at. When you see your own mind in states of anger, craving, hatred, suffering, ignorance, that's meditation. You have to be with all experiences, not just the good ones. You have to be with all of them equally and really, really create space for them, allow them to exist, experience them. My teacher says you can accommodate them, right? And you can allow them to arise, allow them to exist, and also allowing them to pass away without clinging on. So another thing you'll notice in your meditation practice is this tendency for the human to want to prolong good experiences. So the other day I was here at this river and I saw a deer. I wish we could see one now, but there was a deer like over there. And I didn't notice it at first, but then eventually I just saw these eyes looking at me. And I was just like, huh, there's a deer. And it was so beautiful, like I couldn't move. It was just like beautiful deer staring at me. And then after a few seconds, it kind of just like turned around and hopped away. It just pranced out, you know, back around the trees over there. So I noticed that then I kept going back to the river to like go see the deer again. Like I wanted to go chase it. Like I wanted to prolong the experience of seeing the deer. I couldn't just let it go. I like seeing the deer so much that I wanted more and more and more and more. I wanted to go like, you know, always see the deer. Okay? So this is what we do. We try to prolong experiences that are especially juicy and especially enjoyable and pleasurable. We want to stretch those out. And then the experiences that are not very juicy or pleasurable or enjoyable, like pain in your back, for example, we want to do everything we can to get rid of it instantly. There's like no capacity to be able to sit there with it. So even right now, I feel like I'm kind of clinging on to this river experience over here. So we're going to go back to where we started. Yeah. So if you don't devote at least a few hours a day, like I know we say 20 minutes a day or whatever, that's a good start. It's better than zero. But as I've been going on my journey, I've been realizing that I actually need to practice like literally all day. Otherwise, my life doesn't work. So now here's when we get to objections like, well, Adam, I don't have time to practice all day. I can't afford it. I have work. I have this. I'm very busy, right? I'm very busy chasing illusions, Adam. You know, they're very important. I know this whole thing about the golden idol and, you know, it's an illusion. I don't actually need it. Okay. But trust me, I really need it. So this was the other, we'll talk about that in a second. But the other thing I wanted to say was that, so you have this avoidance, right? You're not able to face reality and you're not able to be with it. You have this tendency to get sucked into thought stories so quickly. And then now you're just like a spectator watching a movie, and then you're not even a spectator, you actually now are in the movie. And this is called the dream of samsara. So traditionally when we think we're asleep, we think there's like blackness, there's nothing. But really what being asleep means is actually being involved in life in this sort of like conceptual way, where now you're so involved in life that you forgot that it's just a movie. Now you're actually scared that the boulder is going to crush you. Or that the golden idol is actually going to fulfill all your dreams and desires. Again, don't get me wrong what I'm saying. I'm not saying you need to like go jump off a cliff. Or you don't have to be scared of like tigers in the forest that are coming to like eat you. You know, obviously you still take care. You still take care of your body, but I wanted to mention that there's a lot of things that you do that you think you really need to do that are actually unnecessary. So one example might be like going to the gym 6 days a week and eating tons of chicken and steak and eggs and just eating tons of food and going to the gym and working out. A friend of mine was coaching someone, and we'll tell a different story. But you think you need to go to the gym to get these huge, gigantic, massive muscles, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. But a friend of mine was coaching someone, and he asked them. He said, "Hey, like, do you really need all this?" And in my friend's example, it was a car. The guy really needed a car. Right? He's like, "Yeah, no, trust me, I really want the car. I really want the car." And Lucas, my friend, was like, "Why?" And the guy was like, "Well, I think it'll help me to get a girl." And then Lucas is like, "Oh, there we go. See, you don't want the car, you want a girl." And then he's like, "Why do you want a girl?" And then there was this whole chain. It was like, "Oh, well, you know, we could do fun things together." Okay, why do you want to do fun things together? And the root always is, I just want to feel good. So when we talk about chasing illusions, what we're doing is we're taking this really roundabout way in order to feel good, and we're actually doing it in a way that doesn't even work. Like me staring at the toy and begging my parents for this toy, thinking that the toy is going to like save me and make me feel good, not realizing that it's not the toy that makes me feel good, it's my own relationship to reality, the way I am. Just awareness itself that isn't clinging to specific experiences, just pure awareness, just your own mind. That when your mind isn't like attached to certain experiences and needing and craving, then it just starts to feel good without anything. You're just sitting there and breathing. I've had periods on my meditation retreats where I'm suffering immensely and my knees hurt so much, and I feel like I'm trapped in a box, like I'm claustrophobic, and I want to do everything to escape this meditation. I just want my timer to go off so I can, stop. Right? All meditation is just sitting there. That's all I was doing. I was sitting there and trying to be present of the breathing. And so avoiding pain, suffering, like I feel like I'm in hell, like literally trapped in hell. And some people will say, well, that's proof that meditation is bad. No, that's not proof meditation is bad. That's just meditation. That's just your own mind. Meditation really doesn't exist. It's just the practice of being alive and seeing what's happening. So it's not that the meditation was torturing me. It was my mind that was torturing itself with the clinging and the needing and the avoiding, right? After it got so bad, at one point I remember there was like, I was sitting in this tiny hut in Thailand in a monastery. All of a sudden it was just like, and then the suffering went away. And it's not that the pain went away. The pain was still there, but I was okay with it, and I wasn't avoiding it anymore. And I just was able to realize that just my mind existing, is so vast, and it's so spacious, and it's actually very fulfilling. There was this feeling of like sitting in this wide open grassy meadow, right? So it was like being trapped in a box, being burned in hell, right? That kind of feeling. And then all of a sudden, once the resistance just dropped, the feeling tone switched to this vastness, and it was open, like sitting in an open field with nature and trees, and it was just calm and good, and there was just this sense of well-being that was there. And notice, my external circumstance didn't change. I was still sitting in the hut in Thailand. I was still stuck on this meditation retreat. I was still in the same sitting position. But once the mind realized the futility of this fighting and this searching to get out, to escape, once I stopped trying to escape my predicament and I just kind of sat with it and surrendered, we switched from being trapped in a box in hell to feeling amazing with nothing. I had nothing. There's nothing there. It was just a room and me and a cushion. So the realization is that all of this striving and searching and chasing and organizing and planning and scheming to get more money, a better house, a better this, a better girlfriend, a bit more status, more fame. Why do you want that? The reason why you want that is because you're basically just unable to sit with what is actually there. You're unable to sit with a little bit of discomfort in your knees, or some pain in your back, or some boredom, or some craving. You can't sit with that because craving is uncomfortable, right? You're not able to sit with it. You're not able to clearly see it arise, exist for a little bit, and then pass away. Sort of like frames in a movie, like a mirage. That's all of reality, all experiences. Meditation will show you all experiences arise, they exist for a little bit, and then they always pass away. So most of what you're doing in your life is you're trying to get certain experiences, certain type of sex, a certain type of house, or traveling, or status, or love. You're trying to get a certain experience because you're ignoring the true nature of all experience. It's just flickering light on a screen. And that's an analogy. There is no screen and there is no light. It's you can't give it a word because it just is what it is. So experience is what it is, but it's definitely not as solid as it seems. It's just like a dance, a play, a movie, a show. So what I've found in my life over and over and over and over again, that when I'm not meditating and I'm not devoting 2 hours, 3 hours a day, going on retreats, really meditating. You know, there's this story of the businessman who doesn't have time to meditate, right? It's like, I don't have time to meditate. I'm so busy. I have all this stuff to do. You know, I'm working my job. I got to feed my family. I got to get a promotion, all of this. The master tells him to meditate for 20 minutes. He says, I can't do 20 minutes. Can I do 10? The master says, oh, wow, it's worse than I thought. In this case, you probably need 30 or 40 minutes. So this idea of like, if you think you don't have time to meditate or you can't afford some time off to just sit and really be, because you got to work, you know, you're really in debt. I'm really in debt, Adam. You don't understand. I can't meditate. I'm telling you, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. You can meditate. You just don't want to. And there's a difference there. So it's good to just be truthful, right? To say you don't have time, that's not honest. But to say I'm not prioritizing my time, or my life is so busy chasing after all of this other stuff that I don't really need because I think it's going to make me happy, but really it's not. And I've basically choked all of my time away. With these weeds have grown in my life of just like all this shit, all these commitments, all this stuff I need to do, but you don't realize you don't need all that. Yeah, you can still focus. I'm not trying to take away what's important to you, you know. Of course you can spend time with your family. Of course you can play your instrument that you love and you can enjoy your life and all of this. What I'm saying is that a lot of the things you do in search of happiness clog your life, and they actually contribute to this state of dissatisfaction, of frantic searching. And then what this leads to is actually being aggressive. So remember, we were talking about the avoidance, which leads to the desire, right? The desire, then what happens when you don't get your desire? When you don't get your promotion, or your kids aren't behaving in the way you want them to, or they can't get into that school? What happens when you don't get what you want? Aggression, anger. Now you start forcing things. You become forceful with yourself. You're hard on yourself. I have to work, otherwise I'm gonna die. That bitch is not giving me the sex that I want. So the root of all of the fights that you have with your family and your girlfriend and your boyfriend and your friends, all of this, like, just, you're fighting all the time, you know, you're not satisfied, your body hurts, you're not aware, and then of course all of these emotions, you don't know how to process them, so then that leads to addiction, more avoidance, right? Now I'm gonna have more junk food and more smoking weed and more movies and all of this, right? So there's more avoidance, and then it's just so much suffering. So much pain, so much pain, so much pain, all stemming from your inability to sit and be with what is actually there. To watch yourself have these intricate sexual fantasies for 20 minutes straight as you're trying to set your timer for 20 minutes, and then 20 minutes it's just sexual fantasies. You need to be with that. That's good meditation. That's not bad meditation. You might have the tendency to be hard on yourself, like, oh, that was such a bad meditation there. See, now again, you have this desire for good meditation, right? And then when you don't have a good meditation, then now you get angry at yourself. So the desire always breeds aggression. They're the same. The ignorance breeds the desire, which breeds the aggression. These are the same. In Buddhism, this is the three forces that turn the wheel of samsara. Ignorance, which breeds desire, which breeds aggression and forcefulness. They're actually all one. This is an ancient thing. I'm not making this up, guys. It's not like Adam rambling. This is rooted in what enlightened masters, the Buddha, literally taught what I'm teaching today. So don't think I'm just like, rambling. Of course I'm rambling, but I'm rambling about something that is important. Realize that you can't be happy unless you meditate. So what we've talked about, the Four Noble Truths, we've talked about the truth that you're suffering all the time. the reality that suffering has a cause. The cause of suffering is this ignorance, this unwillingness to look, the unwillingness to be with what is. But since suffering has a cause, that also means that suffering has an end. Okay? The end of suffering is to be with what is, to practice it, and then the Noble Eightfold Path is the fourth noble truth, which is the path of meditation. Basically, the learning how to be mindful, how to be good, how to be kind. All right, so this video is getting a bit long. We're going to talk more about this in the future. If you want some help with implementing your meditation practice, you want to meditate with a Sangha, which is a Buddhist term for a community. You want to meditate with a community for free, you can come join my free meditation community. We talk about diet, we talk about your life purpose, aligning your life with your passion, and then we talk about how to implement everything we just talked about today in your life so that it actually works for you, so that you really gain lasting fulfillment, which it comes from resting in the natural state of your mind. Without clinging, without chasing, without conceptualizing and planning and chasing and scheming. Just sitting with what is, that's the peace right there. And it's infinitely helpful for you. It's also infinitely helpful for other beings as well around you. Your family and friends will be very, if you want to benefit them, instead of, preaching to them and forcing them to change, right? And making them feel bad, judging them. Instead of that, focus on yourself and realizing, awakening for yourself. And just that is extremely helpful for you and also for all beings in all universes and galaxies and dimensions and times, past, present, future, big and small. All beings benefit greatly from the meditation practice of awareness and of realizing what's true. All right, so dedicating this video to the welfare of all beings. Come join our free meditation community. It happens once a week. Okay, you just put in your email there. There's a link in the description. Come join, see you there, and subscribe for more videos like this. I will catch you on the flip side. Bye.